Parties hold an immense attraction for me. The higher the class, the better. Granted, my name is almost never on the invitation list, and the host wouldn't know me from Eve, but that doesn't ruin the fun. My boss says it takes a special kind of woman to crash a party, and an even more special woman to crash a party armed. He's probably right. My name is Burgundy Graves, and my job is rather extreme. It's a strange fact that the greater portion of humanity doesn't like confronting monsters under the bed, or chasing across rooftops after magical immigrants, but that's their own problem. I get a big kick out of those kinds of jobs, and am always ready to land the toughest ones. That's why, besides the benefit of canapés, a new evening gown, and socializing with the upper crust, I had agreed to take on this last-minute case. Mysterious disappearances, large-scale robberies, it had all the signs of a perfect challenge. But so far, the grand total of my assignment was to stay cozied up in a dark corner of the Sidney Westphalen party, sip a ginger ale, and keep one eye locked on Mr. Sidney Westphalen himself, or Target 1, as we called him. I swirled my fizzing drink and listened to the ice clink against the smooth glass. Young Mr. Sidney, as far as anyone had told me, was suspected of hooking up with a gang of unusual cutthroats. At least 2 bank vaults had been robbed in the last week. None of the security cameras had caught a thing, and as for the guards, well, they were no longer in a state to answer any questions. The diagnostics team had sent in some garbled report about fairy residue, but nothing to explain what we might be dealing with. The police were stumped. Our investigators were stumped. Now it was my turn. The restaurant's band turned out smooth jazz, the partygoers laughed and talked, and, despite the relaxed atmosphere, I wished my superiors had let me take a gun into this operation. Leaving it in the cloakroom for retrieval didn't cut it. Besides that, the job seemed to be going smoothly. A few other surveillance operatives were milling around in the crowd, in case I needed backup. Although what they would have been able to do without weapons, nobody knows. All in all, it promised to be a festive but boring night. Clearly my boss still had me on a blacklist, or he wouldn't have pulled me from a very promising case of illegal pixie dust importing. A nasty business somewhere between kidnapping and fur farming, and lured me here with the promise of big game, only to leave me with nothing to do but keep the crumbs from landing on my evening gown. A tall, dark, and handsome shadow loomed up beside me. "All quiet so far?" Stuart Landis asked, leaning an elbow against the bar behind me. "Co-workers." I waved a hand at the crowded press of humanity. "Sickeningly so. I haven't been this keyed up since Fairy Invasion of '98, when a single fairy burst into the office and demanded a ransom of 2 donuts. I glanced at him to make sure the sarcasm wasn't being lost. "And I do believe I'm out of ginger ale. Again. Where were you?" The ghost of a smile flickered across his face. "Paying court to our host. Don't take it out on me, Cher." He edged closer to the bar stool and surveyed the party. "Myron reported some mysterious activity in the kitchens. He's going to investigate." "Oh, good." I set my glass down on the bar. "Save all the excitement for yourselves." Landis chuckled. "I'm going to check in with Camille, but I'll come get you before the shooting starts." I had no idea who Camille was, but I wasn't going to bring it up. Landis slid off into the crowd. I watched him weave through the throng toward a fluffy-looking blonde in a long green dress. Nobody had told me who the high-ranking officer was on this mission, and I made a mental note to find out. If it was me, we were cutting our losses and getting back to real work. Soon. The band trickled to a stop amid a smattering of applause, and I eased myself off the high bar stool. If this watch was going to last much longer, I would need another soda. As I started around the edge of the crowd, a loud laugh pulled my attention back to the knot of men surrounding Target 1. He, the target himself, barely old enough to inherit the Westphalen fortune, was swaying on his feet, a limp arm dangling over his neighbor's shoulder. "Fine, then," he burbled, one hand locked on the stem of a wineglass. "I'll show you myself if you don't believe me." He started shuffling toward one of the doors, still hanging on the taller man's arm. Worth investigating. I drifted back around the crowd and watched them stagger out through a door and around the corner,